Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yo, what's up guys? In today's video, I've got a build for you that's gonna toss as many enemies off the map as you can. But just kidding, jokes aside, I have a really fun build that uses the Quasar grenade to create some cool synergies between a lot of gear we have and a cool trick with these grenades and the new class mod. But before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Borderlands 3 Mayhem 4 Zane builds. And don't forget to join the Zane Nation Discord channel. Link will be in a pinned comment down below. So as you guys can see, we're using the Quasar. There's a cool trick with the class mod I'm going to tell you about in just a second. And like I said, there's some great synergy with our build in general. So real quick though, I want to show you guys the Quasar we're using. Just make sure you get a normal Quasar. The sticky Quasar doesn't have the same sort of yeet effect we're looking for, and we basically want to toss enemies all over the place. We want to group them together or toss them off the map because that's super fun. But the first thing I want to point out, this was brought up to me by a user in my Discord called XXXBadGuyLOL. Basically, any grenade with coils actually will trigger the new class mod. Quasars, hex grenades, storm fronts, basically those are all coil grenades and they all proc the new class mod a ton of times. So keep in mind, obviously it's not hard to keep your kill skills up in general, but there's a couple kill skills in particular that are very good when you proc them multiple times. Playing Dirty, Good Misfortune, Fractal Frags, those are a couple I could think of off the top of my head. So a really cool synergy. But let's get into the build. I just wanted to give you guys that cool info I found out about, and there is some other synergies that makes this all work out well. So the Quasar grenade not only tosses enemies all over the place, but it also makes it so they can't target you, enemies can't shoot while they're flying through the air, and it can also group a bunch of enemies together. So if we can't literally toss them off the map, we're basically just want to get them all into the same area and at the same time take a bunch of enemy fire off of us. So what do we do once we have them all together in a tiny little area? Well, that comes down to what weapons we're using. So the first weapon we're using is the Scoville. This pistol has a huge AoE splash radius and will damage everything in a pretty large area. So this is my favorite weapon to mob with in this build. Now keep in mind this only shoots a couple times then reloads. So you can get into a sort of cycle of toss a Quasar, spam this the 2 or 3 times, depending if you have mag size upgrades. Toss another Quasar, spam it, reload, Quasar, spam, reload, and so on. This is super powerful. And with the Quasar grenades, you can basically damage so many enemies at once. The second weapon I'm going to be going over, and probably the most powerful weapon in this build, is the Hive. We're going to be pulling off some slide shooting, and then once again you can toss some Quasars so that all that AoE, all that splash damage, it'll hit every enemy in the area all at once. This weapon is also amazing because while you have Salvation active, which is all the time, you'll basically constantly be getting healed. This is the best weapon in the build, in my opinion, by far. Not only because of how much damage this does in one shot, especially with playing dirty, but also, like I said, the synergy with your kill skills, namely salvation. Now, I have one in radiation and corrosive for different situations, obviously, and the anointments won't matter at all. The ones you guys probably see in the video are the ones I was using, which have swap with your digiclone to reload. So we're not actually adding any damage to this. I showed you the quasar I was using earlier. There's no anointment on that. None of the gear in this build was pretty much using any damage anointments. So any damage anointments you get are just gonna add some insanely good more damage. And one last thing is I'm also using another piece of gear in this build to keep up with some of the ammo on the hive. Now the last two weapons, I'm just gonna mention them both right now. We're basically using a corrosive cutsman and a brainstormer. Both of these weapons work great when you group enemies together. These are both basically support weapons though for different situations once again, and they do a bunch of work and they do a bunch of damage. When you group a ton of enemies together and then start spamming a brainstormer, it definitely does some crazy things. So on to the shield. We're using the Big Boom Blaster. This is going to help us keep up some of that ammo with our hive. And what's great is, since your clone gets a copy of your shield as well, he's going to leave behind a huge pile of boosters if he ever dies. Or if you ever swap places with him, you'll almost instantly pick them up. What's cool is you can also quick breather to start to fill up your own shield, and you'll drop some more boosters. What's also great about picking up boosters is then you get more shield and you drop more boosters. So this is a very strong shield. Try to space out picking up boosters, like try to avoid them if you can. It's not a big deal if you just pick them all up. But sometimes you want to go back later for that extra shield or that extra hive ammo. And for the artifact, we're using a snowdrift. This is going to give us a ton of damage out of our hive. It's going to give you a ton of damage if you want to slide and shoot any of the other weapons in this build. This is also just great utility in general. And who doesn't like moving fast to get around a lot quicker? I know a lot of people can't even play without the snowdrift. I'm almost one of them. It's definitely annoying when I don't have a snowdrift on. So moving on to the skill trees, we are basically playing with no barrier at all. We are fully spec'd into the clone and the drone trees, full speed, full damage. Throwing grenades will keep playing dirty up all the time because, like I said, they trigger your class mod. Now, keep in mind, the more enemies you hit at once, basically the more it will trigger it. So try to group up enemies like I was talking about. Besides that, synchronicity, Donnybrook, a lot of the speed skills, all these things are going to be great for you. Now, when it comes to the clone, Boom Enhance and Old U are going to make it so you never die. Since your clone is also kind of spamming Quasar grenades a little bit with Fractal Frags, he pretty much keeps most of the aggro off of him. Don't get me wrong, he can definitely die if he gets focused a little bit hard. But yeah, like the fact that he's just spamming Quasar grenades, on top of being a little bit tanky from Boom Enhance, he's going to live a lot longer than you expect, which is going to make it so that Old U is up almost all the time as long as your clone is up. Finally, 3 points in Pocket Full of Grenades. Between this, Death Follows Close, the new class mod, the Big Boom Blaster, you will be able to toss Quasars for life. What's really cool about the grenades and the Cutsman, like I mentioned, is you will basically always have Playing Dirty active. You're pretty much shooting a ×2 Cutsman. During the Wotan fight, when you kind of spam grenades while you're Cutsmaning, if you pay attention to Playing Dirty, it's always active through your whole clip because there's a lot of enemies near Wotan. So your Quasar actually gets enough chances to proc your class mod. That's pretty much it for the skill trees. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We kind of have our points spread out, besides the 5 ofs that are important. And yeah, we just want to get the most kind of DPS we can get. Reload speed is very important, so don't skimp on that because you can't throw grenades while you're reloading. And yeah, these are probably the best skill trees for this build. I really like how we didn't go all the way into double barrel. We're not just spamming the hive the whole time. And that's another reason why the big boom blaster can actually keep up the ammo with it, so that you often don't run out. Now on to the playstyle. Playing this build is actually kind of simple. I do have to say it takes a bit to get used to. Basically just getting the hang of like where to throw quasars. Sometimes the flying enemies are kind of annoying because it's hard to attach a quasar onto them if there's nothing nearby that you can throw it to. So sometimes these snipers in the first area will give me trouble, and the death spheres on the bridge will give me a little bit of trouble. And this is where I say you want to spam your hive a little bit more. Use quasars as much as you can to group up the other enemies. Slide and shoot your hive multiple times. I showcased in a video a couple days ago how much damage the hive can do, especially when you're grouping up enemies so that it damages all of them. You're really going to get a lot of kills really fast. So after that, you'll be able to just shoot the hive again, and it'll kill the flying enemies as well. The only thing that sucks is you can't control where the little rockets go, but eventually they'll make their way up there. So besides that, just keep in mind your quasars are basically crowd control. Your goal is to take the enemy shots off of you, keep salvation active, keep like spam your guns when you need to a little bit. Also keep in mind you can definitely use a ion cannon in this build. With your big boom blaster you actually will never run out of ammo. Sometimes with the hive you can get a little bit close if you spam it too much, but yeah, there's definitely some other options. I like the hive a lot. I was even playing with a lump, I was even playing with some scourges, and I gotta say the hive does the most overall damage in one shot, and the kind of synergy with the delayed rockets, so you're constantly healing salvation at multiple different times. I really do think it's the best RPG for this build. And once again, the last thing in the playstyle is don't forget to throw as many enemies as possible off of the map. It's probably the best part of this build, especially if you notice in some of the clips where I get multiple enemies at once off the map. It is probably my favorite thing to do. But that's it for the build. That is it for the skill trees, the gear, the playstyle. I hope you guys enjoy this build and some of this gameplay. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Borderlands 3 Mayhem 4 Zane builds. Don't forget to join the Zane Nation Discord channel. Link will be in a pinned comment down below. And I just want to thank the members who decided to sign up and support my channel. Big shout out to you guys and big thanks. Ian Czop, Peter Abbis, Norman Brooks, Flyman, El Jefe, Jeremy Bentham, vanmec, Starcatcher, Andrew Whitting, Alexander, Vong Meng, Max N, Drumlion, Kaldra, Dreazzy, and Janus. Thank you guys so much for becoming the first members of my channel. I appreciate you guys. I will talk to all of you soon. But that's going to be it from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.